Jiu-Jitsu will never lie to you. Jiu-Jitsu is always going to be honest with you. If you feel like you suck, what did you eat today? What did you eat yesterday?
If a jiu-jitsu athlete wants to go pro, what should they be focusing on right now?
Your goal should not be making money. Your goal should not be getting sponsors. Your goal should not be teaching seminars. Your only goal is, how do I put as many hours as possible on the mats?
If somebody hears that and they're like, dude, 5 years, does that mean that maybe they don't love it enough?
You have to just love training. You have to love jiu-jitsu. And if you love jiu-jitsu, it's going to be easy to be motivated to set up your life in a way that you're just always doing jiu-jitsu.
What did that look like for you?
I knew that I needed to quit my job so that I can train full time. Sold my car, started riding a bike to the gym. When you're in that position, when you're the young up and coming fighter, people will help you, but they're not going to help you if you're not helping yourself first. Yeah, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode of the AMs.
The AMs.
The AMs. Oh, wow. The AMs. Coming to you this AM from Jackson, Mississippi. We're out here on the road. Deron couldn't make it. He had something come up, but I'm going to be traveling a lot in the next 9 weeks. My schedule is going to be crazy. And today was one of my last days to get an episode out to you guys. So me and Andrew decided that we're going to just go ahead and get something out today. And what's probably going to happen in the future is you're probably going to get a couple episodes potentially without me as well. So we're going to probably have Deron and Andrew put a couple out because I'm going to be I'm headed to New Zealand on Sunday. And then I'm going to be in New Zealand for like a week and a half. And then I'm going to be in Australia for like 2.5 weeks. And then straight from Australia, I'm going to Thailand. I have 2 week-long camps in Thailand. And then I have a few seminars in Thailand. And then from there, I have some free time, but I'm trying to get that booked as well. And then I'm going to be in China. And then I'm going to be in Bali. So got a lot of travel coming up the next few weeks, so we wanted to just knock out one episode, talk to you guys about a couple things, share some of our experiences with you guys. So I hope you guys like it. I'm personally gonna, I think, love recording without Deron because I fucking hate him.
It's so funny. I was explaining that to somebody. I was like, there's friends that are like, oh yeah, that's my brother, and like they're super nice to each other. I'm like, no, these guys are like actually like brothers. Like they will just talk shit about each other all the time. And then I referenced how you guys like first met and like you guys actually did fight each other, not like each other. I'm like, no, they actually are like brothers. It's comical. But what the heck, dude? So how many seminars in how many days are you doing? And why did you decide to put everything all in one to, like, on paper, like this looks like a nightmare. Why did you decide to do all this?
Yeah, so it first started, the first thing that I had booked was a 1-week camp in Thailand. And there's direct flights from Perth to Thailand. So Australia is not too far away from Thailand. It's kind of in the same area of the world. Whereas if I was to fly from San Jose or San Francisco into Australia, I mean, we're talking at least 14-hour, 20-hour flight, depending on if you have stops and stuff like that. Potentially like a 24-hour flight. And, we're talking probably $1,000 or $1,500, super expensive. So what I did last year was essentially I had someone reach out to me that actually lives in Perth. His name's Damien, and he's become somewhat of a manager for me at this point. He reached out to me. He owns a finger tape company, like specifically for jiu-jitsu finger tape. And he reached out to me and basically offered me to help set up a seminar tour of Australia and New Zealand. And he's done that for a few jiu-jitsu athletes before. He's just like the typical guy that just like loves jiu-jitsu. And he actually owns a jiu-jitsu gym. He was a white belt. He might be a blue belt now, but he's not a black belt, right? So he started a gym. He, pays coaches to teach there. He started a finger tape company. So he's a business guy, But with that being said, he loves jujitsu, and he's always trying to get high level athletes to come out to Australia because, obviously Australia has like Lachlan and Craig and now Adele, and they have a lot of high level jujitsu athletes, but they're still very very early on as far as developing jujitsu talent, and there's just not that many high level guys that are going over to that part of the world because it is so far, and most of the high level guys live in America or Brazil. So anyways, Damien reaches out to me, and he has just a lot of contacts with all the different gyms. He's very well known in the jiu-jitsu community on that side of the world, mostly because he does have that finger tape company. So he does wholesaling to a bunch of different gyms in that region. So he has a lot of contacts. So anyways, I've done a tour of Australia and New Zealand before. It was maybe about 2 to 3 weeks. I had, I think, 12 seminars, 14 seminars booked between New Zealand and Australia, something around that range. And so, naturally, whenever I booked the camp in Thailand, Damien reached out to me again, and he was like, hey, why don't we try to get you some seminars lined up before your camp? So started promoting, and I had a lot of time because the Thailand camp was booked and planned like a year out. So had a lot of time, started kind of marketing it. And while I was trying to build the seminar tour, I also was competing in UFC Fight Pass a lot. That was around the time that, I had the match with Haizam, had a really good performance. Had the match with Pedro Murillo, had a really good performance. And then had the match with Nicky Rod, which I lost, but a lot of people still enjoyed the match. It was a really competitive match. So I had a lot of good marketing for myself because I was competing on big stages, and plus I had a lot of good experiences from my seminars that I taught before. So a lot of people wanted to rebook me, and then I had a lot of new people booking me as well. So I ended up booking 20 seminars between New Zealand and Australia, and then I had the Thailand camp right after. Thailand camp completely sold out. So then the organizer of the camp wanted to add a second week. So then I ended up adding a second week. Second week isn't fully sold out, but it sold pretty well. So that's going to be great. And I'm super excited because I'm going to be in Thailand for like about 3 weeks total. Whereas all the other seminars, a lot of them, I'm taking a flight one day, teaching the seminar at night, sleeping there one night in whatever city I'm in, and then the next day I'm going to wake up and take another flight to the next city. So it's going to be nice to actually be able to stay in one place for 3 weeks. Yeah, and then I got booked for another camp in Bali. That's about a month later. So then I'm like, okay, why am I going to come back and then go back to Bali the next month? So I'm going to try to figure out how to kind of fill out my time in Asia. So I don't have everything fully scheduled. I have everything scheduled to a certain point, and then I'm kind of going to figure it out as I go.
Yeah, well, that's great because then you don't miss out on anything, right? Like if you overbook or you have all these plans and all of a sudden you don't fulfill those plans, you kind of like, oh shoot, I didn't live up to the expectations, and then you kind of like let things fall off. But what's crazy is again that travel, right? For me, like when I do travel, it's usually the hydration for me that goes right. Like I don't get enough water, and then therefore, like if I am training, I feel kind of like sluggish, and I start to cramp up, and I just don't feel like me. I can't get enough sleep no matter how much I try because you're in like different locations and that sort of thing. Do you have any suggestions or advice for anybody that's like traveling and maybe competing, like how to kind of rehydrate yourself or refuel yourself? I meant to say to make sure that you kind of just still feel like you, because again, I don't know how much live rolling you do at your seminars, but like you have to be on, right? Like people are paying to see you, and you don't want to give anybody like a piss poor performance. So what are you doing to kind of remain and maintain that like high level energy throughout your traveling?
Yeah, definitely. So there is that thing. I don't know if it's true or a myth or not, but I think it's true. Where like when you fly, a certain amount of water kind of evaporates out of your body, so it naturally kind of dehydrates you a little bit more.
Mhm.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes total sense, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's two different things. I mean, there's two different mindsets. One is I'm traveling for a competition, or I'm traveling while I'm in a training camp. And then the other is I'm traveling without any competition plans in the near future. So I'm more on that side right now because I'm dealing with this back injury. So I can be a little less disciplined right now, but I've obviously traveled many times while I was in training camp. I've traveled to go get training with different people, with the focus being training camp. I've also traveled multiple times internationally for competition. So, I mean, definitely, if I'm traveling to a competition. Oh, and there's another huge aspect too, which is, do I have to make weight? That's
Mhm.
another one. So I remember early on when I was cutting weight for MMA, I used to fight MMA at 170. So a lot of the time when I was traveling, I would be right in the middle of either my water load or my water cut. So, I mean, one tip I can give you guys is what I used to do is I used to bring a gallon jug, and then it's just like it has to be empty to go through security, right? But then once you get past security, then you can fill it up, and then you can have like a big water jug on your flight, right? So that's something, if you're doing like a water load, I would definitely recommend, because if not, I mean, what's the other option? You're going to go ask the flight attendants for a little cup of water every 5 minutes, right? So bring a water jug, empty water jug through security, and fill it up once you get through, right? And if not, if you're not doing a water cut but you still want to stay hydrated, just bring like one of these, like a liter of water, drink it before you go through security, and then just refill it. Obviously you can buy these too, but I mean, you're going to pay like $8 at the airport, and I'm super cheap. So and then just make sure that you're adding some electrolytes too. That's something that I didn't even start doing until 5 years ago, once I got
Mhm.
educated on electrolytes. And when I was a younger athlete, I used to just drink straight water, even when I was doing a water load or a water cut. And that's horrible. I remember when I would try to rehydrate after making 170, when I'm doing like a 18, 20 pound water cut, and I would just be drinking water, and then I just kept pissing, and my piss was like clear.
Mhm.
And that's like a clear sign that you don't have enough like electrolytes, right?
That's
So
such a dangerous spot because that's when you start dehydrating yourself with the hydrate when you think you're hydrating, right? It's freaking horrible. What do you have a favorite electrolyte brand or supplement that you like to use?
yeah, I have a sponsor, Santa Cruz Medicinals. That's one of the most popular brands, and there's no added sugars. There's no Santa Cruz Medicinals is like really big on health and wellness, and he's one of those guys that is always showing you kind of what ingredients you don't want in your supplements, what ingredients you don't want in your foods. So he's very, very on top of that. So there's none of the added stuff in it, and it tastes good. Obviously, it's not going to be like a super sweet, like tasty drink, because it doesn't have all the bad stuff in it, right? But it tastes good.
Yeah,
Tastes
you're not
good.
a child anymore. You don't need Kool-Aid to drink your damn water. Like grow up a little bit,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, grow up, bro.
A little bit, like, you don't have to grow all the way up, just a little bit. How about food on the road? That's another one for me. Like, even just like when we were in Vegas, I didn't realize how attached I was to food, right? Like, I would go try to get like a good healthy breakfast, and I would look at the menu and be like, dude, it's going to cost me like $50 to get what I really want, which is just like 10 eggs, right? Like, it's kind of difficult to eat like I'll say on plan, right? Like I don't have a specific diet that I follow, but I just follow like a high protein rich diet. And on the road, that's really hard for me because, like, I'll say frugal. I won't say I'm cheap, but I'm not trying to spend $100 a meal just because I want to get, the more protein than what they offer. So I guess we can go down the competitor route. Like, what are you doing as a competitor to stay on plan and refueled and making sure that you're not falling off the diet plan as well while you're traveling.
Yeah, I will say that at this point, I'm okay with spending a little bit more, especially depending on where I'm at. If I'm in training camp and I'm traveling, I will spend what I need to spend to make sure that I'm eating what I need to eat, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I also went to Vegas recently and I wasn't in training camp. Um, but I wanted to stick to my dieting goals as much as possible, right? While still obviously having a good time. And what I found myself doing that I thought was actually kind of genius is there's a lot of like all you can eat places in Vegas. So I would just go, I almost was doing kind of like a fast. And then I would go once a day to an either all you can eat sushi or all you can eat with like red meat, like a Brazilian barbecue or a Korean barbecue. And I would just fill up and I can eat a lot when I'm eating like that in like a fasting mode. I can eat a lot. So, I mean, you're going to spend 40, 50, $60 on a nice all you can eat place, but I'm getting my protein for the whole day. It's
Mhm.
going to be worth it. I'm eating 4 pounds of beef.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You know
dude.
what I mean?
So what I did at for the CJI, I just didn't eat anything pretty much the entire day. Went to the event, and then me and my friends we just walked in and out, and I just got each night I got 10 patties with cheese every night, and
Wow,
that
bro. 10 patties?
yeah, dude, Flying Dutchman. So I just got 5 Flying Dutchman.
5 Flying Dutchman, yeah.
Yeah, it's dude. I mean, it's great, right? I don't mess with the fries anymore for various reasons. But that's all I did. So I was kind of doing like a OMAD diet while on the road because I just, again, I couldn't find anything that was like too, like, I didn't know where to go. Like, I'm not familiar with Vegas at all. I didn't even think about like an all you can eat buffet, or else I would have definitely hit that. Because when I'm home, I like having basically like 2 meals a day. I have a really big breakfast with a ton of eggs. So, like, right now, I'm doing, so like one of those small cartons of egg whites with 2 eggs and then some toast and some vegetables. Like, that's my breakfast. And then I don't eat anything in the middle of the day. And then at night for dinner, I just have like a big old steak, rice, and more veggies. And that's pretty much it. So what I was missing was that big breakfast meal. So all I could think about was like, dude, I'm hungry. Like, the whole time I was hungry. And if I went to go get food somewhere, I was always just like super disappointed because it wasn't enough. So the better option is just to straight up fast instead of trying to, like, I don't know, pick and choose small little items here and there. Just go for the all you can eat. I think is
Yeah.
definitely a better option, right?
So why don't you stay in a hotel that has free breakfast and then just eat unlimited eggs there? Because they always have eggs.
Really? Yeah. No, I again, I'm not. This is why I'm asking all these questions, because like I'm just not too familiar with traveling, especially now that I have such a high focus on my diet and nutrition. But like in my head, I was like, oh, let me just get an Airbnb with a kitchen, and I'll find like a grocery store or something, and I'll just like make eggs, in the Airbnb. But then I'm like, dude, like, I'm only going to be here for a day. Like, do I really want to go get, like 18 eggs and then maybe leave some behind or something? You know what I mean? Like, it just got kind of like a little convoluted. So I ended up just like fasting through it. But next time, getting a place with like eggs and a hotel with a breakfast like that would be a way better option, especially if it's just like a short turnaround. If I'm staying somewhere for like a week, then I will do that Airbnb. But yeah, again, I'm just like a rookie with all of this stuff, so I'm learning.
Yeah, definitely. And it just goes back for me personally, it goes back to like, where am I at right now as far as when is the next time that I'm going to compete? I get super locked in and dialed in as soon as I hit like the 8 weeks out mark, 8 weeks out. And then even 6 weeks out, bulletproof.
Hmm.
But if I don't have a competition scheduled, I can be a little bit looser, especially if I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, I'm hurt. I'm not training. So I'm not going to take a short notice match or anything like that anytime soon.
Hmm.
So I don't have to worry so much about where I'm going to eat. I don't have to worry about finding a grocery store. I don't have to worry about cooking. But with that being said, at this point in my life too, I also am like, okay, just because I don't have a competition coming up doesn't mean I'm gonna like eat a bunch of like fast food and desserts and stuff like that all the time. So, which I have done that before. I mean, I'm a fat kid at heart, so especially when I was cutting for MMA, I used to just balloon up in between fights because I would just starve myself all the time. And then I would go and like binge eat afterwards. And now it's like, I'm 31. I'm trying to be a little bit more disciplined and I don't want to completely kill all my progress that I've been making. So at this point, it's just like try to hit your protein for the day, right? Like try to get at least 200 to 250 grams of protein that day so that I can keep my muscle mass, keep feeding the muscle. And then let's just like not go too crazy with any type of like desserts or stuff like that. And that's not even just for the way that I look. That's also, I mean, I'm just not going to feel good. If I go and get like a stack of pancakes for breakfast, I'm just going to be like sleepy and tired all day and not
Mhm.
like performing at my best. So like
Yeah,
I want to feel good.
yeah, that's the main thing for me, dude. Like, I haven't been this locked in with my diet my entire life. I'm 39 right now. I'll be 40 in April, and I guess that does have something to do with it too. You know, like just maturing and kind of experiencing what life feels like when I'm not eating optimally. Like, dude, like my stomach's just like kind of always bloated, or like, why am I farting everywhere I go? Like, what's going on? Like, I'm always like uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden you kind of like, all right, let me take this one thing out. And like, okay, I feel a little bit better. Let me take this other thing out. All right, I feel a little bit better. All right, you know what? Maybe I'm not going to cut loose on the weekend and have pizza like I have been for the past forever. And like, damn, I feel even better. And then all of a sudden you get into something like jujitsu, or you do get into a fight camp or something. And then you're like, if I eat this tonight, then it's going to really compromise tomorrow morning's training. So like, I'm not going to mess with that. And that's one of the most incredible things about this sport is you start prioritizing what's really important for the sport. And that just like has such a huge cascade of other disciplines that I haven't experienced this before, because you can get away with eating bad performing other things, right? Like I can eat like crap and go lift in the gym and still have a good session. I can't eat bad and then go roll with somebody. They go knee on belly, and now I'm the guy that's farting in front of everybody, right? You don't want to be that guy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just really cool to have something that you prioritize so high that, like, nah, dude, I don't want the freaking ice cream right now. Like, I'm good. It's so easy to say no to that stuff when you're in camp.
Yeah. And the difference too is if you go out drinking all night on Saturday or you go and binge eat a bunch of bad food and then you wake up on Sunday and you're like, okay, I'm just going to tough it out. Let me go hit this weightlifting session. You can have a bad session and you're going to feel bad, but you're going to tough it out and you're going to get through it and you're probably going to feel better after. If you do that with jujitsu, I mean, first off, there's a good chance you're going to get hurt the next day, right? And even if you don't get hurt, you're going to get the life choked out of you 20 times. So the consequences of not showing up at your best in jiu-jitsu or any combat sport really is going to be a lot worse than if you just have a bad workout, right?
Mhm.
I was having this conversation with one of my friends. I have this friend that's a blue belt that I'm kind of like, I would say kind of like mentoring a little bit, been getting him in shape a little bit and kind of pushing him to train a little more. And sometimes he'll just be like, man, I just I just feel like I suck, bro. Like I've been training like shit or this and that. And I'm like, hey man, jujitsu will never lie to you. Like jujitsu is always going to be honest with you. If you feel like you suck, what did you eat today? What did you eat yesterday? And he's a little bit of a thicker guy. And I'm like, bro, you got 20 pounds of body fat weighing you down. If you're telling me that you don't want to suck at jiu-jitsu anymore and you want to feel good at jiu-jitsu, you got to get your diet in check. You went out drinking all night on Saturday. No wonder you feel like you suck on Monday. So you can't, complaining about it's not going to do anything. Making excuses is not going to do anything. the only thing that you can do is make those improvements in yourself. And that's why I love jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu will keep you on track, man. I have a lot of like alcoholics in my family, and I love to drink, but I know it's really bad for you, but I enjoy it. I don't do it very often because I know it's so bad for you and I'm an athlete, but I really enjoy it. And a part of me thinks that, if I didn't have jiu-jitsu, I might have ended up on that same path. Before I started training, I definitely used to drink a lot more and party a lot more. And now it's like jiu-jitsu is going to let you know if you go out drinking all night on Friday and Saturday, even if you take Sunday off, come Monday, it's going to let you know. And then, you're going to get your butt kicked. You're going to feel horrible. And then it's just not worth it. And then the next weekend, you're going to be like, man, fuck that. I'm staying in this weekend. I'm going to play some video games and go to sleep early and, eat healthy. That's what I love so much about it.
That's one of the most profound things I've ever heard you say, dude. Jiu-jitsu doesn't lie, right? It's gonna tell you like, um, I forgot how the saying goes, but basically, like, you can't be mad at the results that you're not getting for the work that you didn't do,
You didn't
right?
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for this, you're talking about on the like the more of the nutrition side of things, but what about like the off the mat work, like whether it be mobility or even training in the gym? And we'll bring this back around to travel and stuff. But like, how are you working that side? Like, is that even a concern right now for you? Like, are you worried about like, oh, whatever, I gotta get my workout in? Or my mobility in, even though I'm on the road, or are you just utilizing the seminars and the mat time to just keep yourself kind of in shape, we'll say?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in the gym 5 days a week, basically since I've been injured, and I've been slowly kind of doing whatever exercises I can do. But with that being said, there are times that I go and get a hard weightlifting session in, and then my back's feeling a little sore, and in the back of my head, I've been thinking lately, like, man, maybe I need to kind of pull back a little bit on the lifting because maybe the lifting is kind of aggravating the back. So I'm in the mindset right now. Obviously, I'm still going to continue. I've built a lot of muscle in the last couple months, and honestly, I feel like I'm almost in like the best shape of my life. I'm strong, and I'm not super shredded, because I haven't been training and I've been a little loose with my diet, but I'm in a decent spot as far as like being lean as well. So I definitely don't want to just be a complete piece of shit and do nothing this whole time. But I think it's going to be okay if I pull back on the weights a little bit, because there is a chance that, doing too much as far as the weightlifting is also potentially keeping me out or keeping my injury aggravated. I mean, there's two thought processes. One is like you want to kind of push it and be active. And some people even say that kind of the more active you are, the faster your injury will heal, as long as you don't kind of overdo it, right? But then on the other side is like you need to rest, sleep, let your body recover, right? So at this point now, I'm basically in the mindset that if I have to miss a few workouts on my program because I'm traveling and teaching so much, that's okay. I'm not going to freak out about it. I'm not going to, like, say I have a flight at 8 a.m. I'm not going to freak out and be like, no, I have to wake up at 5 and get my workout in before the flight, right? Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, there's a good chance that will do more harm than good, especially because I'm trying to recover from this injury. So I'm definitely going to try to get, a few workouts in per week. I'm definitely going to try to keep my diet somewhat dialed in. Going to try to hit my protein, going to try to not overeat. But at the same time, if I have to be a little loose with the strength conditioning, I'm going to just be okay with it because I need to let my body heal. And it's coming at the perfect time too, because this is a good time for me to, just focus on business, just focus on making money. Let that be a priority for a little bit. My priority has always been jujitsu. I used to literally not even teach any classes because I wanted to just focus on training. I've went through many phases like that. And so now I think it's okay for me to capitalize a little bit and, focus on making a little money for a few months. And then, when the body's healthy, I'll get back in the mindset of, okay, I need to focus on jiu-jitsu. I need to focus on being the best in the world.
Do you think that, I mean, because again, you're like right when we just joked about like the ranking systems and all this stuff, like they mean nothing. And then Flow Grappling has you listed at number 2. It's like, hey guys, look at me, I'm number 2.
Yeah.
So you're at that level. But do you think that you had to go through that phase where you're like, I'm not doing anything other than jujitsu? Um, did you have to go through that in order to be this guy that's booking 20 seminars in 30 days or whatever it is, right? Like, did you have to go through this kind of like, this is all I do to now become, wait, now this is a business and I need to focus on just this now?
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because I've had this conversation with younger athletes that I'm friends with many, many, many times. I get this question all the time, even people I don't know in the DMs. Sometimes people that I don't know will ask me, how do I get sponsors? That's what they ask me in one form or another. Hey, I'm just wondering how I should market myself in order to attract sponsors or be a good fit for sponsors. Or B is something about seminars. How do I market myself so that people want to book me for seminars or this or that? And yes, that is a good question to ask, but it's not the right time to ask that question. Right now, if you're a blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, unless you're a brown belt phenom that's winning worlds and everyone knows who you are, even if you're a black belt, if you are not competing at the highest level and winning at the highest level, if you're not winning worlds, if you're not winning pans, if you're not winning every ADCC Open you compete in, your only goal right now should be training. Your goal should not be making money. All you need to do is make enough money to live. You need to make enough money so that your rent's paid and so that you can eat. You don't even really need a car. If you can get to and from the gym, your goal should not be making money. Your goal should not be getting sponsors. Your goal should not be teaching seminars. Your only goal is, how do I put as many hours as possible on the mats? That's it. That's it. You don't need anything else. Get to the gym, train, and get better. Get better for years. That's your only goal for the next 5 years. That's your only goal. Come back and ask me when you are a black belt world champ, how do you market yourself to sponsors? How do you market yourself to teaching more seminars? Because now this brings us to another point, which is that there are a lot of world champions in jiu-jitsu. There are a lot of scary ass dudes that are very, very high level that aren't making money. Those guys need to ask that question of, how do I get more sponsors? How do I get more seminars? And then, we can talk about different strategies of marketing and how to market with social media and stuff like that. But if you're not that guy, you shouldn't be asking those questions. You should be trying to figure out how to become that guy first. Once you get super high level, now we can start thinking about marketing and approaching sponsors and this and that.
If somebody hears that and they're like, dude, 5 years, you can be as hard as you want. But if they hear that and they're like, dude, I don't know if I could be competing and try striving for that level for 5 years, does that mean that maybe they don't love it enough to continue to grind for another 5, 6, 7, 8 years?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to just love training. You can't be like, I have to go train so that I can get sponsors and seminars. You have to just love training. You have to love jiu-jitsu. And if you love jiu-jitsu, it's going to be easy to be motivated to set up your life in a way that you're just always doing jiu-jitsu, because that's what you want to do anyways. Right? I mean, if you're not okay with, if you're 18 years old and you're not okay with sleeping in the gym and, eating whatever you can eat. And I mean, if you're not okay with that, there's hundreds of kids in Brazil that are okay with that. And those kids are sleeping on the mats. They're eating whatever they can get their hands on. They're training even though they're sore and their back hurts and their neck hurts and their ankle hurts. They're training. And then when you go to the tournament to fight that kid, he is not going to lose, bro, because he sacrificed his entire life, and his only way of getting off the mats is if he wins. And that's what I tell these kids all the time, these American kids, that, you know, if you live in America and you're under the age of 25 and you live with your parents, like me, I'm super thankful. I was able to live with my parents until I was 25. And that's one of the main reasons I was able to continue training. And my parents aren't rich, right? But um, my parents aren't rich. I didn't come from money. I had to pay for my own food and my own car and stuff like that. But I was able to at least live at home. And because of that, I was able to quit my job and start training full time, right? But how many kids do you know that they have the opportunity to live at home with their parents, but they want to move out so they can have more freedom, or they can have girls over, or they can have parties, or whatever it is, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
How
Yeah,
many
they
kids do
want
that?
the quick here and now. I wanna celebrate this. I want to indulge in this, and it's a human thing. We cannot think that far ahead in the future, but especially when we're young, right? Like, I just wanna party. I don't wanna be under my parents', roof. I wanna do my own thing. And it's like, man, you are giving up so much of your future because you wanna party right now.
For sure. And you're getting stuck in the trap and the rat race. And every time that you add more overhead and you add more monthly expenses, you are now going to have to trade your time for money, aka get a job,
Mhm.
right? So, okay, cool. Now you have $1,000 in rent that you have to pay, and you have a $300 car payment. So you have to work. Now that you have to work, and not just work, but you're going to have to work full time, right? And it's nothing wrong with working. And there are people that don't have that opportunity to live with their parents and they need to buy a car to get to work. But you got to be honest with yourself, and you got to try to keep your monthly expenses as low as possible. The lower that your monthly expenses are, the less time that you need to spend working and trading your time and your energy for money, and the more time you can focus on training.
Mhm.
Right. So when I was 21, when I was doing MMA, I was living with my parents. But I had a full-time job from like 18 to 21, 22. I had a full-time job. I was working for Pepsi, stocking shelves, working 40, 50 hours a week and training around it and fighting and cutting weight and all that stuff while I had a full-time job. And then once I got to a certain point, I knew that I needed to quit my job so that I can train full time, because I was training once a day, and I knew there was guys out there that were training full time, and I was going to go pro, and I was going to need to fight these guys, and I needed to be able to train just as much, if not more than them. So sold my car because I had a $300 car payment, right? Sold my car, and then started riding a bike to the gym. The gym was a few miles away from my house. It was like a 20-minute bike ride. Started riding my bike to the gym, and then I just needed money for food and my cell phone bill. That's it, right? So I saved up like 3 grand, and in my head I was like, okay, this 3 grand, if I spend $500 a month, it's gonna last me 6 months. That's gonna hold me off until my pro debut, and then when I fight my pro debut, I'm gonna make $1,000. That's gonna hold me off for another couple months, right? I was like doing that math in my head. So I started riding my bike to the gym, and then things fall into place. Shortly after that, I got my purple belt, and then it was like, hey, we have this one kids class that just opened up. You want to start teaching? Cool. Boom. Started teaching one kids class a week. And then, opportunities are going to come. All of a sudden there's, that guy at the gym that you made friends with that wants to start doing private lessons with you. And he kind of knows, he kind of wants to help you out too, because you're the young fighter. People will help you when you're in that position, when you're the young up and coming fighter. People will help you, but they're not going to help you if you're not helping yourself first. So when people see you riding your bike to the gym and dedicating your life, and you tell people you just quit your job, there's going to be people that will help you. So don't
Y
be afraid. You got to take that leap.
Yeah, you have like there's millions of people that are hearing that and that are like, yeah, no, I would totally quit my job and ride my bike and, plan out my expenses if I knew this was going to happen, if I knew I was going to get that position, if I knew I was going to get that coaching job or whatever it is, or if I knew my phone was going to ring to be invited to compete at whatever event. But it's called risking for the unknown. The stuff that you were doing is all stuff that like you're just like, nope, I want to do this. So therefore I'm going to quit everything and focus on that. And we'll see what happens along the way. And what's crazy is, like you just said, along the way, people will help you, but then all of a sudden things just start falling into place. I'm going to use podcasting as an example. I got into podcasting and I got into jujitsu. I meet Mason Fowler. Now we podcast together. We have this podcast that I don't really know exactly where it's going to go, but it's already heading in a dope direction, in a direction that I had no idea it was going in. And there's already opportunities that are opening up for me. And again, I had no idea what was going to happen, but I was risking for the unknown. I'm putting in a lot of time, work, effort into this podcast, and it's leading to some really cool things. Now, there's a lot of people that wouldn't want to risk the time and energy to do that. Mason did it, and look where it got him. So, was there anything like, was there one moment where you're like, oh shit, I actually can compete and hang with the best of the best, right? This actually is like, a lot of people are probably like, maybe have a little sense of denial, not denial, or what's the word, like ignorance, like, oh yeah, I can't compete with the best. And it's good mentality, right? You should be able to feel that you can compete with anybody. But did something happen to where you were like, oh, wait a second, I actually am like running with the best of the best now?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of small moments like that, right? But at first, my goal was MMA, and I was in a good position. Obviously, when you're winning fights, that's a good sign, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I had 8 total fights. I had 6 amateur fights and 2 pro fights, and I fought a couple tough dudes. I fought this one dude. His name is Keegan Ginrich, and I just seen something the other day that he's like the LFA champ right now.
Oh shit.
And he has a pretty good record. I fought him in the amateurs, and I fought this other guy, Jeffrey Lewis, that I think his amateur record was like 8-1, and I was his only loss. So you test yourself through competition, and I had like all finishes, and so I had little tests along the way. I trained at one point. I trained with Sean Strickland and had pretty good training with him, and I think he had some crazy record at the time. I think he had maybe just gotten into the UFC, but I think he was 15-0 or something crazy like that at the time. And that's when I had one pro fight. I was like 1-0. So, and we were the same weight class. So, I got that opportunity to train with him, and we had some really good sparring. We had some good rolling. He came and trained with us for a few days at that point. I had sparred with John Fitch, who obviously was a UFC title contender. And then I was sparring regularly with Josh Koscheck, who was one of my coaches at the time. And so, you have to you want to definitely train with people that are at that level and where you want to be. And, obviously if you're hanging with those guys and in training, you win sometimes, I win sometimes. So it kind of goes back and forth. But if you find yourself in a room with that level and you're hanging with that level, then you start to believe like, oh yeah, I'm getting to that level. And then you go and fight and you win. And it's like, oh yeah, I really, and there's a lot of self-doubt along the way. And, there's this thing called imposter syndrome that it turns out like 99% of high level athletes have. And that's one of the biggest struggles, is getting through that kind of imposter syndrome and building your confidence and building your self belief. And you're going to do that just through your habits. I mean, you have to improve your skill. You have to get yourself to that level, and you want to surround yourself with other successful people. And then it's like, if you're on a team and your whole team's winning and your whole team's out there fighting and looking good, and then you're fighting and looking good, then you start to feel good about yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, we got it. We got it. But when I ended up transitioning to jiu-jitsu, obviously I always kind of knew I had a knack for jiu-jitsu. any training rooms I'm in, I always would do well, be one of the better guys in the room. And so I knew that I naturally was, pretty decent at jiu-jitsu. I would have success when I would compete at jiu-jitsu tournaments. But a big moment for me, a huge moment for me, is when I got to train with Bernardo Faria. Bernardo is really good friends with one of my old coaches, Gabriel Fonseca, that actually Gabriel promoted me to brown belt. Those two are really tight. And so Gabriel brought in Bernardo for a seminar, and I actually got to train with him. And I think he was just like, hey, we're going to go until submission. So I think we ended up going for like 8 or 9 minutes or something like that. And he definitely smashed me. I was a purple belt at the time. He obviously he's like a 4-time black belt world champ. So he definitely smashed me. But I put up a little bit of a fight, I put up a little bit of a fight. And afterwards, I was like feeling like, fuck, I got smashed, wrecked. But he was like, man, you have a lot of heart, brother. He's like, you have the heart of a champion, He told me that you have the heart of a champion. And I was like, damn, okay, that's a good sign. And afterwards, we went to dinner, and I had a good talk with him. And I remember him telling me, of course, he was being super nice and, telling me I have a lot of potential. But then one thing that he told me too, he was like, man, he's like, Mason, there's not a lot of Americans that are successful in jiu-jitsu, right? It's a dominated by the Brazilians, especially at that time. That was years ago. Now, obviously, no-gi is, kind of 50-50 between Americans and Brazilians. But at that time, especially in the gi, it was gi and no-gi, but especially in the gi, super dominated by the Brazilians. And what he told me is that if I can make it to the top of the sport and if I can build a name for myself, then because I'm American, it's going to be a lot easier for me to make money because I'm going to be kind of an outlier. It's like, oh yeah, he's a Brazilian dude and he's a world champ. There's 100 of them, right? But then if he's an American guy and he's a world champ, or he won this tournament or that tournament, like, oh wow, right? So that really kind of motivated me to want to dive into jiu-jitsu and become high level at jiu-jitsu, because I felt like it was basically a good chance for me to make a little bit of money, right?
Yeah, there's that. But then also getting the stamp of approval from someone like that is like, bro, like I couldn't imagine how cool that would have felt. Like even just to hang out with him, but also to roll with him and have him be like, no, you're actually holding your own. I would have, I don't know, man, I would have been freaking out because you just watch the, BJJ Fanatics so much, and then you just see the face and you're like, oh shit, like this is sick. So before we drop off though, I have to ask because I'm seeing this clip everywhere. It was the first clip that like I've watched in a while where like I audibly laughed hard. It was you and Kaio where you're where you interrupt his like whatever it looks like like you guys are filming like an instructional, um, and then he puts you to sleep. Dude, what was going on there? Like what happened? Because that shit's hilarious. Like I'm seeing people repost it, and then when people repost it, it's also getting a ton of views. And there's people that are like, oh, that's fake because there's no way he's even choking him. And these are just people that just don't know jujitsu with like the lapel grips and stuff. But dude, yeah, like were you guys just like literally filming something and then you're like, nah, bro, don't do that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been doing lately is that we'll have like a content day. So we have a videographer come to the gym for a few hours. He's there for, 3 hours or so. And then, we'll have the guys, basically the guys on the team that are kind of the more high level guys that we're trying to all kind of build up and market ourselves. We'll all take turns kind of filming some different content, some techniques, or some different video ideas. And all I'm gonna say is just don't ever question your coach.
he looked so fired up when he's just like, all right, I'm gonna do it. You're like, okay, and you're like, dude, it's not gonna work. And he's like, okay, all right, make sure you're filming. Like, dude, that was such a kind of like a dad moment from Kaio to be like, all right, I'm gonna teach you a lesson and you're
Yeah,
gonna like it. It
and
was so good.
Kaio too is very similar to like kind of like Deron, where and he does, obviously he has his like very serious demeanor, that most people see, but he's the guy that's, when you're friends with him, he's always talking shit during the training and joking with you and messing around with you and stuff like that. So we do talk a lot of crap to each other and stuff. And yes, and that choke, who was it? He hit that on a world champ at a big super fight. There was this big super fight event that used to go around. I forgot what it was called, but he had a big high profile super fight against, I think it was Milton Bastos, who's like a super high level guy, and he hit him with that choke. So that choke definitely works. And Milton had the lapel wrap and was trying to come up to the single leg the same way. And then Kyle countered him with that choke.
No way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just like a Kanto choke, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called, the Kanto choke.
Kanto. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know the mechanics behind it, but I've tried to hit it and I don't know what I'm doing sometimes other than just putting myself in bad situations. Quick update on the back. Like, how's it feeling? I saw you're taking some like BPC 157 and then something that's similar to TB 500, which is like supposed to be like the best combo for recouping. From the company was called BioThrive. I'm just curious, like how things are, like, you know, are things moving in the right direction? How's everything going? And I guess, yeah, do you have any plans on when do you think you'll be back on the mats competing, you know, in the future?
Yeah. So what we think it is like a cartilage. There's like some cartilage in your back, kind of like around your ribs, right? And that's what it feels like. I tore some cartilage in the front of my ribs before, and I remember it took around 3 to 4 months to heal before I could start training again. And it basically feels like the same exact thing, but in the back. And so I've just been kind of hopeful that it's going to be around that same time range. And I'm around the 3-month mark right now. So I'm still, like I said, I'm able to do a lot more than I was able to before. Like, I remember just 6 weeks ago, I wasn't able to do like a pull up or a box jump. There was a lot of exercises that I really had to stay away from in my program. And now, you know, I'm able to do pull ups. I don't feel pain when I'm doing pull-ups, but then my back will feel a little sore the next day. So that's one of those things that it's like, I'm kind of in that mindset that like, okay, maybe I need to stay away from a little bit of the strength conditioning because maybe that's irritating it a little bit. But yeah, definitely at like today, not ready to start rolling yet. But I'm hopeful that within probably the next month, I can try and test it out. I'm just going to have to be careful because ideally, I want to, you know, obviously train at all these seminars that I'm doing because, and one of the main reasons is because when Bernardo came and did that seminar with us, he trained. And a lot of people have different views and opinions on training at seminars. There's a lot of guys that don't train at seminars for obvious reasons. They don't want to get injured, or they feel like they don't kind of like owe people anything. I personally love to train at seminars because I know what a big impact that had on me when I was able to train with Bernardo. I felt like I learned so much from that round. So I try my best to train when I can, but I just hope people understand that sometimes I'm injured. So there's been multiple times that I'm at a seminar and I teach the seminar, and then it's like, guys, I'm hurt, or my knee's bothering me today. I can't risk it. I'm sorry. And then I'll usually just do like an open Q&A to end the seminar. And that has a lot of benefits too, because oftentimes people will have a specific question and maybe it's something related to their game, and maybe it's something that I have an answer for. And so maybe, you know, through the Q&A, you can potentially learn more than through rolling with me. So I think that that's a good alternative, definitely. But I do try, and plus training's the fun part too. Like, I want to train. I want to train with you guys. It's fun. I'd rather train with you guys than teach you guys anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that within the next month or so, I'm able to test it out. I want to make sure that it's good before I test it out. And the kind of sketchy part is I'm going to have to test it out with people I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just have to be very strict and diligent and be like, hey, I'm going to test out training a little bit with you guys today. It's the first time I've trained. So let's keep it really chill. And if I feel like I'm in danger or someone's being spazzy, I'm going to have to just put my ego to the side and just be like, hey, man, I can't train with you. I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt my back. I might have to do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not what I like to do. What I like to do is if someone's being spazzy, I can spaz out a whole lot harder than you. So let's get spazzy, bro.
Yeah. Well, as somebody that's been on the other side of seminars, right? So like, and what's cool, so like your buddy that's helping you out with this whole freaking world tour of seminars, you said he's like probably still just a white belt. That's more inspiring than if somebody is like, oh yeah, I've been a black belt my whole life and we're doing this thing with Mason. And I say that because as a white belt, me and my buddy Charlie Zamora have hosted some amazing seminars here in Sacramento. One of them was with Nicky Rod, and Nicky Rod used it basically as like a training day, right? Like he showed some really good instruction, and then he's like, all right, let's get some rounds in. And he just kind of like lined everyone up to kind of go up against him. Now, I'm not going to do anything to somebody like that. So I got nothing out of that. But then somebody else we brought to town was Giancarlo Bodoni. And that was more of the sit down Q&A style. And dude, I learned so much more from that. Maybe it's just because of where I'm at in my jiu-jitsu journey. But what I'm saying is like I don't want you to feel discouraged like that somebody's not going to get the most out of that seminar, nor the people attending the seminar that are going to think like, oh, I didn't get to feel what it's like to grapple with an elite grappler. Like, no, like you're still going to be able to learn and teach so much at those style of seminars. And like I said, dude, like I got the most out of like just sitting down and talking and like walking through things. Now, of course, like in that moment, right? Like you can still pull somebody up and be like, hey, like you're going to want to do X, Y, and Z in that situation, right? To answer that question, like with a visual answer as well. So yeah, no, I dig both, but I definitely like the Q&A stuff because like I'm not going to be able to roll with somebody at that level. And I'm not going to try either. Like, what am I going to do? Like, you've seen the best of the best. You're not going to be like, oh shit, that freaking 39-year-old blue belt really had something for me. Definitely
Yeah,
not the case.
and that definitely that might also just be kind of the difference as far as like the type of person you are versus the type of person I am and the type of learning that we do. Like everyone learns differently. I feel like I just like learn from doing. So I've learned a lot of good techniques from Kyle that he's showed me and I've drilled, but I feel like I enjoy learning more and my brain processes things better just from like rolling with him. Like I learned a lot of things just from rolling with him. So you might be more of a learner where someone explaining something to you or someone showing you sticks better for you because everyone's different, right? So there are going to be probably a lot of people that will enjoy and learn more from the Q&A. And I will say a lot of the people that will be kind of like disappointed or bummed if you don't roll maybe didn't have the purest intentions with even coming to the seminar, because I've also heard this from people that have said like, oh yeah, I wanted to test myself against you, or I wanted to see if I could hang or stuff like that. And I'm just like, man, I just got off an 8-hour flight. I didn't eat. I'm hungover. I'm just training for fun right now. We're not in a competition right now. If you want to test yourself, then let's both enter a tournament in the same bracket and then we can test ourselves. But we're not at a tournament right now. You're not testing yourself. I'm just rolling with you to roll with you.
I couldn't imagine what could be gained. Of
No, I
I
hear
don't
that
know,
all the
man.
time.
Yeah, that's
I hear that all
wild.
the time.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm a visual learner, and then with jujitsu you have to feel it. But the one thing that helps me too is like if you're telling me to do something, I have to literally close my eyes and imagine myself from like a different angle doing the thing that you're trying to teach me. Otherwise, because like when you're in the role, sometimes you end up like I don't know if you're getting inverted or something, like you can't it's just hard to imagine it, and it's hard to do that without it's hard to complete the move without trying to like walk through it step by step, at least for myself in my head. sometimes you get lucky and then you try to replicate it and it just doesn't freaking work. But so yeah, I kind of learn a little bit of like all different ways. Like I have to be shown it, I have to be taught it, and then I have to visualize it, and then eventually feel the movement and whatnot. But yeah, man, this was dope, dude. I really appreciate the Q&A style that I, again, had another opportunity to kind of pick your brain with. If there's anything else that you want to mention, shout outs or anything like that, let us know. And then, yeah, I guess if there's still time for people to catch you on your seminar tour, I guess let us know what some of those dates are if you know them. And if not, we can kind of leave stuff in the description on like where to sign up and where you guys can see Mason in the very, very near future.
Yeah, I would just say if you're listening and you live in New Zealand or Australia, just shoot me a DM and let me know where you live. And if I'm doing a seminar close to you, then I'll let you know. And I'm pretty good at responding to my message requests and stuff like that. And then, I'm going to be in Asia. And I think in November, yeah, like around mid-November, I have a few dates open. So if you have any connections in Asia, or if you live in Asia and you're interested in booking me, I have a few open dates for like around mid-November.
If you are aspiring to be a pro jiu-jitsu athlete, you're going to need to figure out ways to make money as a grappler. So if you dug this episode, you're really going to dig this one, where we actually talked about ways to make money as a full-time grappler. So again, if you like this, you're going to love that. Click on this video right here and we'll see you there. Peace.